We're counting down the top 10 architectural statements for the year in Western Australia.
I think the standard of architecture in WA is very strong. As ever, it has its own design cues, which comes through in all of the projects that we look at today.
We've seen lots of female architects, I think perhaps for the first time, and lots of houses as well. In fact, 7 out of 10 of the projects were housing projects.
For me, this one has been really well considered, and I think the way that they've actually captured the different eras and really embraced that in trying to tell the story of this particular residence, they've done that with class and sophistication.
This is a really good example of how you can keep adding to a building, but at the same time be sympathetic and respectful towards it. People can look back at this and you can see the story of the building, and that's a really important thing.
The layers of diversity of Australia's population can often be read in its residential architecture, and this house is a prime example.
What once was a Federation house had in fact had 3 layers, we think, of different iterations. So through the reflected ceiling drawings, we started to see Art Deco ceilings and 60s ceilings and pressed tin ceilings. We felt like our job here was to bind all of these layers together.
So this front room is very much the original volume, isn't it?
It's completely intact, and that was part of the idea of the space.
I noticed that your air conditioning has really cleverly been put into the chimney stack so you don't have to touch the ceiling.
Putting in a bathroom space into that room would have compromised the original features of the house. So instead we've popped this out like a little ear that goes all the way to the boundary and tried to make the showering experience a more vertical experience, so it's illuminated from above and is meant to be quite cloud-like and joyful in the morning.
This house has had several lives, and each one has been very individual. The success here is allowing each of these lives to coexist, then using this new life to tie them together.
This is a really special project because it weaves together the local Indigenous culture with the functional requirements of a university student building.
I really like the New Light project. It's very complex in its design. It uses a really exciting cladding system that really adds interest to its overall design.
Architecture on large, complex projects can sometimes be compromised by too many voices during the design phase. But when those voices sing in harmony, the results can be extraordinary. What drives a spectacular building like this?
It was actually to become a hub, bring together a lot of different functions that were spread out. Then the other side as well was actually the Indigenous community. There was a real recognition that a lot of Indigenous students, this was going to be their first, encounter, if you like. There's a fantastic Indigenous liaison officer, and so we spoke with him very early in the piece, and he actually brought together all the elders at a number of different meetings.
We needed to have an open and honest relationship with each other so that we could express and understand with great empathy the pressures that each of us were under.
Out of that came a number of themes that were really important to this project. One of them was Nulak, which is the Aboriginal name for the black cockatoo, the Carnaby black cockatoo. Another one is Jindi, which is actually the honey eater. So those themes were brought in. Well, for the screens, we have the Carnaby cockatoo. So you can see the chest feathers actually imprinted on there.
During a presentation to our elders group, a couple were overcome with emotion and needed to sit and take it in, as they never expected in their lived life experiences to see such a different shift and embodiment of our budja, or our country that this building sits on, expressed in the wonderful building that we see today. Certainly positive for community and students, but also positive in an environmental sense, in that the Carnabys, white-tailed black cockatoos here, or our Nulak, as our Nyunga name for them, critically endangered species, have been breeding in the precincts around the building post its construction.
This spectacular building demonstrates the possibilities of true collaboration, where the architectural and Aboriginal themes are at the heart of the design, rather than just a cosmetic afterthought.
We're down to number 2 in our Western Australian countdown, and the level of collaboration in this project resulted in an excellent outcome for the client.
They used to holiday in the region, they come from a country background, and they love to live with a sustainable manner. And the end result absolutely represents the client's vision.
There's quite a limited palette of materials, quite a lot of use of concrete, timber, all simply done, but all beautifully detailed.
How many of us wish we could live in a beach house year-round?
Our clients are originally from a farming family and they always used to holiday in Cottesloe, and they wanted us to pick up on that Cottesloe vibe, and they love the beach. So we've tried to create a house that is really welcoming, which is a very farm, very country kind of sentiment. Then we've also picked up on all the palette from the beach, the greys and the washed driftwoods and the limestone, which is not only of the beach, but it's of the locality, because this used to be a quarry for Cottesloe.
Pretty unusual to put the pool at the front garden.
I mean, we are fortunate that this street is a very quiet street. We put it out the front because of the northern light, and they wanted to entertain. There's a very strong sea breeze coming from the southwest, and if the pool were out there, it probably wouldn't be that pleasant.
And I understand, Pip, that this deck, this whole deck, is hiding a pretty big secret.
This entire deck, to a depth of about 4 metres, is a concrete tank, and it's filled with water. The client has told me that they've not yet actually used any skiing water.
Look at this view. This is fantastic, Pip.
And it's wonderful having these to-the-ceiling windows, so you can reference that with the wonderful sill. Again, a fairly simple bleach palette, but quite luxurious.
Quite luxurious. This is very luxurious. I mean, if downstairs is the holiday beach shack, this is the hotel suite. This house is intelligently designed. It's beautifully finished, and it captures the essence of exactly what a beach house is all about.
And now, the number 1 architectural statement for the year in Western Australia.
I can see this project going a long way in this series and featuring very strongly in our Best of the Best episode.
This has clearly been designed by an architect who understands materials and understands design.
In 1962, the Commonwealth Games came to Perth, sparking a housing boom here in Floreat. The challenge for the next architect is how to respect that strong architectural 60s flavour while updating for a 21st century family. So Neil, this house is full of concrete. The client came and said, I want a concrete house.
They did. That was their brief to me, in fact. They wanted a grey concrete house, which as an architect was a dream come true.
Wow, Neil, I love this space.
As you can see, the concrete from the outside of the building's been brought through. Really made an attempt to use a very natural palette. And by natural, I mean a matte palette. At the moment, the brass is quite shiny. As you can see here, it's dulled off already. As the family use this, there'll be a little bit of polished brass here. So we're encouraging natural weathering and natural ageing. Essentially, it's a single-storey building, which took up a lot of the site area. So we've doubled the outdoor space by using all of this roof space. There's 50 solar panels, which gives 16.5 kilowatt power to the house, which is ample, more than they need. And you can't see any of these panels, which was important to me. It's not about showing off your sustainability, it's about the house being a home. As we have a Mediterranean climate here, if late afternoon on a hot day, all the windows of the house are open up, a beautiful breeze will go through for excellent cross ventilation.
This house ticks all the boxes. It sits comfortably in its surrounds, it's beautiful, it's sustainable. But most importantly, the family absolutely love it.